So again, starting from the beginning, we're going to start covering basic cables to make sure that we all call them the same thing, we all speak the same language, because that's really important. Because if you're having, if we're having an issue on stage, and the front of house person, engineer, tech guy who's running the sound system is calling out stuff, and the person on stage has no idea what he's talking about, you know, we can't troubleshoot an issue quickly. And that's our main thing, is to be able to get things done quickly, just efficiently. So first off, we'll start with this guy right here. This guy's called a?
Quarter inch.
Quarter inch. What else is it called?
Patch cable.
It's quarter inch what?
Instrument cable?
TS.
Never knew that.
Okay? It's called tip sleeve, right? See how it has a little line between the tip of the cable and the rest of the sleeve? It's called tip sleeve. TS. Okay? This guy right here. See the difference between this guy and this guy?
Yes. There's more lines.
Two the ring, right? It's called TRS. Tip ring sleeve. Okay? Do you guys know what balanced and unbalanced is?
Yes.
What is it?
Balanced is when you have a right and a left signal both coming through, and unbalanced is when it's a mono.
Absolutely not. Anybody else?
I'm not going to try.
Okay. When it comes to audio, there's three parts to the signal, okay? This is an actual electrical signal, so very low voltage signal, right? There's no sound coming through here, it's voltage, okay? The variation of voltage is what's reproduced by the mixer, and it turns it back into an actual analog signal, which is then reproduced by the speakers, which is also a mechanical electronic signal. Basically, an audio signal is composed of three parts: positive, negative, and ground, okay? When you have all three components in a wire, that makes it a balanced cable. This guy right here is a balanced cable, okay? This guy right here is an unbalanced cable. What happens is, versus this one is, the negative and the ground are put together and used on the sleeve of this guy, which makes it unbalanced. Problems with unbalanced cables: lots of ground humming, ground loops, all that kind of stuff. Whenever you have an issue on a system, there's usually a ground isolation somewhere issue, okay? It also causes interference, like when you cross a power cable with one of the unbalanced cables, there's more than likely it's going to start to hum. That's why it always happens with the bass and with the keys. Whenever we put the power cables next to the bass and the keys, because somehow they cross the quarter inches going from like the instrument to, you know, the amp or to the DI or something like that, okay? So again, parts to an audio signal: positive, negative, ground, okay? Balanced and unbalanced. Balanced always preferred, unbalanced usually only used for instruments, because guitars, basses, keys, they only have unbalanced outputs, okay? Would you like to pass these around the room?
So you would actually want to have balanced cables at all times, if possible, to prevent the humming.
Always that you have a balanced connection, you should have balanced cables connecting those inputs.
Are there certain things that you can't plug a balanced cable into?
Again, guitars, basses, and keys have only unbalanced outputs. That is why we move to the next issue right here, which is the DI. The DI box takes that signal that is unbalanced from your guitar, acoustic guitar, the keyboard, etc., and does two things to it. A, it pads the signal, it converts it to a balanced signal, and it also pads it out, okay? Signal coming out of a keyboard is usually coming out at line level, okay, which means it's very, very hot. If you were to plug that into a mixer, all of a sudden, even if your gain is all the way down, you see it's just like crazy hot. Same thing from like your phone or from a computer. If you plug it directly into the mixer, you know, it's really hot signal. It's called a line level signal. It's about 5 volts peak to peak is what it's called, or 1 volt peak to peak. And on headphones and iPhones and stuff like that, it's actually 5 volts coming out of it, because it has to have enough voltage to power your headphones, right? So there's a lot of voltage coming out of that. That's why we use the eyes and things of this nature to pad that down and also turn it into a balanced signal, right? DIs, basically how it works is you have an input and a through basically are patched together, right? They're in parallel. And then that way you plug your guitar in here, and then you get the same signal you put in out back, so you can put it into your amplifier, if you have an amplifier. And then what it does is there's an actual line transformer inside here that does a whole conversion and then gives you a good balanced output, right? XLR, same thing. So you have 3 pins, same thing, 3 points: positive, negative, and ground. lift right here, because sometimes even though it goes through a transformation and everything like that, the rest of the system might kind of wacky, and you'll have to lift the ground. You know, there's something within the wiring or something like that, maybe just the way it's connected to the snake or the system, whatever. You still get like a little hum, so you can still completely take off the ground out of this, and then it'll completely eliminate the hum. That's what that's for. All right, RCA or phono, whatever you want to call this guy right here. Same thing. It's a
Unbalanced.
unbalanced, yes.
Bucket unbridged.
Right, and then you have it going to a
Balanced.
okay, there's no transformation here. There's no resistor or anything in line, unlike a DI, okay, which has all the circuitry inside. This is just literally a adapter, technically, okay, so that you can patch in something that has a line output directly into an XLR. It's not recommended you usually do it this way, but sometimes you just have to. This is really used more for powered speakers, because powered speakers, you want to give them a line level input so they have enough power to amplify. Okay? Or if you're going directly into an amplifier. Usually you'd avoid using this going into a mixer, right? Sometimes you have to, and then you'll pad it or add something to it. But basically all this is doing is the same thing. It takes the negative and the ground, puts them together on the same wire, and then it shares it on this side, okay? On the negative and the ground side. And that's how that works, okay? So whenever you guys have issues with grounding and stuff like that, take a look at your connections. Make sure that your connections are done properly, because that's your first line of, you know, problems occurring. Next up, we have another. This is a regular, same as this guy. It's called a what cable?
XLR.
XLR cable. XLRs are always what?
Balanced.
Balanced. And what else? What are the connections on them?
Ground.
Positive.
Negative. And
I'll make it a lot easier for you. Female and male.
oh, okay. I didn't know it did.
Okay, an XLR cable is always female on one side and male on the other side. The reason being is you can interconnect them. You can keep stretching them out as you need to, which is the beauty of XLR cables. All right. Now we have XLR is typically just the connection, right, within here. This just it was Canon who originally made the name of the input. It has a specific name why it's XLR. But anyway. There are audio XLR cables, and you have lighting XLR cables, really called data or DMX cables. This is a really nice one. It's got the back coming off of it. The actual cable is a different structure. It's a totally different type of cable. If you see this right here, you guys can see it. You see what's inside. This is all, the conductors are not copper. They're all aluminum, okay? Because for lighting purposes, the resistance on a aluminum strand is different than from a copper strand. On audio cables, you'll see that they're all copper. Right? Copper is actually a better conductor of electricity. And great for audio purposes, but actually not as good for lighting data. So take this guy out, and you'll see that these guys, if I can take this off, are copper. Pretty copper. It's yellowish. This looks like gold. Alright? And an even easier way to find out if it's a lighting or data cable is reading the jacket, because it tells you what it is.
It's cheating. You gotta take it apart to find out.
Yeah, at all costs, please take apart all our cables. Anyway. Then we move on to this guy here. These guys, you guys know, these are called Speak-On, also known as Neutrik cables. Neutrik is the brand company who made them, all right, who designed that. So there's several different types of Speak-On or Neutrik type connections. They even have a series for power connectors. This is actually an NO4, and there's NO2 is what we usually use for the sound system. Basically it means it has 4 conductors or 2 conductors, all right? We only need 2 for this because we use a single amped system, not a bi-amped system. This one has an NO4 because I use some bi-amped stuff. That is pretty much that. Then you have little guys like these, call them turnarounds, okay? Or gender changes, all right? So, you go from, say you ran the cable the wrong way and you need actually a male on the other side, and you just pop one of these on and you're done instead of having to rerun the cable or something. But in all cases, just rerun the darn cable. All right, cool.